We'll just wait for the live stream to start. Yeah, I know. I don't know how to fix it. Oh, I know, but they're locked by administrators. So I'm not going to mess with my computer over 5 minutes. Okay, we are live streaming. We are sharing our screen. Maggie is joining us remotely. She's the only person joining us remotely. 10:10 is the time we noticed for the start of our finance committee meeting, and all of our finance members are present. Dufresne, Chris Wheeling, Bill Simcoe, and Carrie Deacon. First order of business is reading and acceptance of December 9th, 2021 minutes. Quite some time ago, but we don't need to frequently as the finance committee. It's broken. All right,
Yeah.
so
You probably have some redundant things here in terms of your person. Maybe you fix them. You got carried twice and one twice.
okay.
That's not anything important.
Oh yeah, look at that. They were doubly engaged for the meeting, so I'll just make sure that's
Multitasking.
Well, no, Gary was representing
Oh,
Green
that's
Island.
right. Yeah, that was Green Island. I can amend that to make sure that's clear.
That's how quickly we forget.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's why you have to have 2 donuts.
That's right.
Mindful.
So back in December, we closed out fiscal year 2021 to accept financial balance. The finances of the corporation, the balance sheet. This was necessary in order to move the audit along. That was the only order of business. So any questions, comments, wishes of the committee members as far as the finance committees go? Motion to accept the minutes. That's a motion. Chris,
I'll second.
Gary, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Interesting enough, on the record, we never motioned to close the meeting. But
so it's still,
I looked at Robert. If you move on to other business, your meeting is closed. All right. Let's get into the meat of this meeting. Each year we put together a proposed budget for the corporation. Because communities are advancing projects throughout the long-term control plan, there tends to be this ebb and flow with when the corporation actually receives invoices. So a project will advance, the host community will receive an invoice, they'll review it, there might be some back and forth about it, they'll approve it for payment, and then traditionally it gets sent to the corporation. Sometimes there are hiccups along the way. We'll talk about those in a little bit. But traditionally, we're seeing invoices far after, let's say a month or two after a community approves them and authorizes them for payment to the vendor, just how things go. The same is true with grants, that we see them, the net contributions for income well beyond the project costs. And that's because traditionally what happens is we get an invoice, approve it, the community will submit that to, for example, state DEC, and it takes them time to process. So it's a real significant moving target for us to be able to book invoices and income for these types of projects when they're actually occurring. So it's quite frequent.
but an annual budget is not really important.
We do the best we can.
An annual budget in regard to this is more of a program
Right.
that has budgets. And
Mhm.
so the annual budget's sort of a construct that isn't.
Yeah, we've traditionally just tried to plug in what we can and focus more on the projects rather than the budget for the corporation. You'll notice that when it comes to project costs and grants, we put the whole amounts in many cases, even though we know that, for example, this LGE grant or the GIGP grant for Police Street probably won't totally be paid in 2023, but we try to account for it. And that keeps our auditors happy, and that keeps the folks at Authority Budget Office understanding how our program is funded. So that's how I come up with these net total for grants. We then come up with the net total for our projects. What I try to do in this exercise is see what monies are left over, quote unquote, in each of these project lines and carry them forward. So that's why Beaver Creek has an $8 million carry forward, because it's money that just hasn't been moved to the corporation even though we put $20 million in this particular year. No, $50 million in the FY22 budget, because we have an estimated $8 million cost. Other projects, like you look at Van Buren, the whole amount is in there, although we don't expect to see the whole amount of Van Buren. Some projects I was able to dial in by speaking like with Gary about how much he anticipates planning costs for Little C and Manor Avenue to be. And that's how we generate the expense lines. When it comes to administrative costs, I carried them forward. The only significant adjustment I made here was I dialed back Beverage and Diamond. It was way inflated. We could dial that back. Hodgson Russ really hasn't been involved very much, so they have a very small line item. I just carried forward CDFBC's coordination from last year. When it comes to other costs and contingencies, I did up our website maintenance to make sure that reflected our annual costs for website that previously weren't being accounted for in that proper bucket. So they're pretty straightforward in audit services is also tied to traditional audit costs as well. What that balances out to is project costs and corporation costs minus any grants and other sources of community contributions, comes out to community, the balance of which is split between the communities for their community, expected community contributions. Any questions, comments, concerns, redlining that needs to take place?
Incorporate all my comments, I think.
Chris, are you comfortable with throwing these whole amounts in? I mean, it's an exercise where whatever doesn't get obligated this year, we just carry forward to next year. So
Yeah.
I know it seems
You
kind of
have to
arbitrary.
shoot, and then you have to go back down afterwards and adjust.
Okay.
Budget.
Yeah.
I mean, doc,
This is the most important aspect. True up to the end of the year to be at zero. If we approve this, then I submit it to the authority budget office. That's it.
Okay,
We post it on our website, and once the new year hits, we try to track things in accordance with the budget. And that's why Tom works on that.
And along those lines, the budget numbers per project and the actuals per project are contained in the individual reports that Martin puts together that I prove back to. So whenever someone's questioning where do we stand on a particular project vis-a-vis that project budget, that's where that moves the.
okay.
So for
Okay.
committee purposes,
Give a motion to recommend this to the full board.
I'll second. Scary. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, folks. Okay, let's get into this one. All of the mathematics apply to this budget as well, so I won't go through and explain that. We're looking at a couple of different potential modifications for this budget, and it's the committee's wish if they want to make a modification of the budget, or if not, the board can certainly take up these invoices. When we were going through project costs, we're evaluating the disbursements from Environmental Facilities Corporation. Some of the projects had holds on them, so they could not be dispersed against. Some of the projects had been dispersed against, but the corporation hadn't received the final invoices for these particular projects. There were two projects that got caught up in, I don't want to say caught up, but came to our attention as having additional invoices to be reviewed before the corporation. That was SSS 09, the Mirror Line Combined Sewer Storage, and STCF 0102, Floatables Control Facilities for Albany. So these have both been cleared by EFC for disbursement. Mirror Line is for Newcastle and for Barton Lake Judas, if I'm not mistaken. And Floatables Control Facility is remaining invoices from William J. Keller. Their two items are in italics, just to draw some attention to that. What I did was, because these were projects that were not originally on the FY 2022 budget, I created a proposed modified 2022 budget for the board to be able to consider if they wish to make those modifications and approve them as part of the budget so we can track them. I don't believe that's necessary because we're operating on an incurred basis. We would just have to make sure that the auditors understand why we authorize those invoices. But I did want to do this as an exercise to illustrate the impacts on those items.
Yeah, so the Flotables was completed a couple of years ago, and Albany was completed last year, so they were incurred in previous years.
The Mirror Line project did receive ISC grant that has been applied to the maximum value of that grant, which was $500,000. When the grant was netted out, the combination of invoices on the project was $640,000. The combination of invoices minus the grant comes out to it's roughly $31,000 over budget. So not significantly over budget, but that project did receive some grant money to offset some of those.
Although they
costs.
grant money, we can't access yet.
No, but that's included in the project budget.
So this is a proposed modification to the 2022 budget.
I'll admit that.
So the grant money is kind of like a construct similar to the budget.
Well, you have to
It's
close,
getting very meta.
you have to do another closing. They don't just amend the original project finance agreement, they actually assign it a whole nother number and had to go through a closing. We could have requested to do that, but instead we're gonna wait and go long-term on the 01. We kind of have to wait for the Cohoes projects and the Troy projects, because we have your Columbia Phase 2 and Wheat Street on our 01, and your Polk Street on our 01, but we figured they're gonna be done. They're gonna be done, so we can close September of next year.
Okay, September, yeah.
Right, with those costs, so
That's good.
yeah, I don't know if everybody here knows Jessica Carpenter. Jessica is the right-hand person of Tom in our finance department. And when we met with EFC, they were looking for a singular person to deal with, particularly on Beaver Creek and how we're doing these disbursement requests. And Jess is taking on that role. She's been working with Paul Johnson. It's going to be talking to this board a little bit more in a formal meeting about how we take care of disbursements on Beaver Creek and going forward. But
Welcome. You can see we're a very diverse group.
Yeah.
especially with Maggie. So appreciate the enhancing the diversity.
so anyway, so some of this is trying to clean up the what was the first tranche, which only Albany and Troy had some financing for, but that was a 2015 financing that needs to now go to. Actually, we've had they advanced the maturity on the financing, because otherwise it would have already hit maturity. So now DFC is really after us to close up that stuff. And Jess is taking up the task of, Jess and Tom have taken up the
And
task.
Martin.
And
Martin was there too.
You guys are Atlas on the shoelaces.
It's just, everybody knows getting to all the paperwork finally to get to the long-term closing. Quite a chore, especially when it's different. So anyway, do we want to have a motion to amend the 2022 budget?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So it's a recommendation to the board to adopt the modified 2020. Okay. Then I think that's the end of our business, and it is. So unless there's any other business for the finance committee, we can adjourn and get into the business for the corporation. we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to. Aye.
All right, great. Let me switch sheets here. Yeah. And Aggie, are you seeing the corporation meeting agenda?
I am, yes.
Great. Sometimes Zoom doesn't want to catch up to me on what I'm sharing, so thank you. And that means that it's being shared for the public as well. We're ready when you are, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, call this meeting to order. We have, it's a hybrid. Most of our board members are here. Maggie is here via Zoom, and we're streaming this meeting. So we've got a quorum here in this room, and we've got myself and Tom Dufresne from Albany and Jessica Carpenter. Gary is here from Columbus. Mark Hendricks from Rensselaer. Got Chris and Andrew here from Troy. Don't have one of the leagues participating today. We've got Maggie from Green Island on Zoom. And, we don't have anyone from our sewer districts here today, but we have Martin Daly and Mark Cigarone and Tom White from CRPC. And I guess our first order of business is the minutes. People reviewed the minutes. Do we have any comments in regard to the minutes of May 12th? And if we don't have any comments, can I have a motion to accept the minutes without their being read?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Maggie. You have a second?
Second.
Tom, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Our financial report as of June 1st. Tom.
Yes, Tom.
Okay, again, Bill and Tom are sending in tons of invoices. We're now up to 56% of our total budget amount for the long-term program projects, totaling 15 million. We have still $790,000 in our bank account, and we're going to be distributing some of that money back to communities. I think spread it around as best we can. And other than those two things, we really are in pretty much the same position we've been in, and we're cooking along normally. Any questions?
Do you want to share the methodology and how we're distributing?
Well, what I was, yeah, the funds that to be distributed, really, I want to go back to the oldest outstanding community projects. We have stuff from 2016, 2017 that sits out there. Albany, Troy, Compose, I think, and I know Waterville each have some small amounts of money, probably about $400,000 combined from those old years. And then it's a case of coming forward from there.
Yeah, in terms of the Beaver Creek Clean River project, I think we wanted to discuss with the folks here and with Jessica how we wanted to move that cash, because Albany doesn't have 100% of the cash accounted for. So we've got our 58% and we're relying on getting the other 42% from the other communities. So we need like no delay between disbursements of that money and getting them back through the Bull Communities Corporation back to Albany. So that is just
That's a top priority for us. We don't have the cash to keep footing the bill. We do need it to come back to us as soon as possible. That's why I think EFC's idea of having one person leading the disbursements will be huge with Beaver Creek, so then we can track everything simultaneously. Everyone's getting the money the same week, and it'll just help ensure that money's flowing the way it should.
Yeah. So that, everybody has the same cost summary for that, so it's just a matter of
That's an easy one.
what percentage of the number it is, and then having a process, hopefully just an electronic transfer process that it goes from AFC to the communities with financing to CDRPC, our corporation bank account, and then to Albany. Because even just those steps is a bunch of steps, so.
We don't want to be hanging on to that money.
No, I like to wire that out as fast as it comes in. We do have our account collateralized, but I don't like having that much money in the account.
And just, in terms of getting the certification ready, would be willing to work with each of the communities with financing to, get the disbursement request filled out. Just that she would be hoping that you could facilitate getting whatever signatures are needed on the.
Hopefully after our last meeting, once they get the invoices from you, Paul sends me the cost summary with these numbers in these spots. And
Correct.
it's,
Now it's gonna be me doing it. So essentially, he advised me that you're caught up with payments because you got a disbursement on 5/26.
Yeah.
Cahoes, you're getting a disbursement next week, he advised me.
Okay.
Waterville Elite has received one, they're getting another one. He has to reach out to them to get the supplemental cert. But theoretically, the process would be, I would fill out everyone's cost summary. I need direct contact information for the person that signs a supplemental cert for your community to tell them this is the amount, this is the draw number, just sign it, and all they have to do is scan me a copy in order to submit for the disbursement. It'll then be on that community to physically mail it, because you do have to mail in the originals. Just in case people didn't know that. You do
I
have
know,
to-
it's like.
So essentially, I would provide the draw number, the amount, that's your percentage. And as long as that person can sign it and get it back to me, I can submit for
Mhm.
everyone. Because right now I'm sitting on 2 million in invoices. I talked to Paul this morning. So I told him we were all meeting today and hopefully we would have a process in place, because obviously it's a lot of money. We gotta pay vendors.
Yeah, and if you need to have a backup person to sign your certs, it would
Yes.
be good to know that.
I'm working on that now because our comptroller was leaving. He was the only one authorized to sign the cert, so I asked Paul yesterday. I said, who can sign? Can I sign them as the deputy mayor? Is it the mayor? He's gonna talk to legal and get back to me. But he's not leaving, comptroller's not leaving until the 26th. I have a stack of the third page of supplemental certs already signed.
Smart. I do the same thing. I have
Already
my
signed
chairman
and stamped and
sign.
ready to go.
I have them sign them in advance every time we have a board meeting, just because the way the invoices come in, if I can get everyone a couple of disbursements every month, I prefer to.
But my concern is after the 26th, he's technically not a city employee, so I gotta throw him out.
Yeah.
So I gotta
Nope,
know
I get
who
it.
the next signature is on there. Right
Well,
now,
we definitely want to do a disbursement then before he
anything
leaves.
Yeah.
before the 26th.
And
Okay.
what we've done is immediately after meeting, we approve invoices. Tom and I will invoice communities for big C, especially big C expenses. And of course, we've sent you our wire information, so ready to go when you are.
And after today, I'll update everyone with what's open.
Just send something to me for our portion.
Yeah, I think we're
For that bit, at
think we're accumulating-
42,000
Yeah,
or
we're
whatever.
we're
We have
accumulating,
that money set
accumulating quite-
aside, so.
yeah, we're accumulating quite a bit for Beaver Creek for Redstone.
We can true up to make sure every community is aware of what they owe, and invoice them. Because you guys aren't relying on the cert. and
No.
yours,
No, we
Green Island,
put
so-
the,
Cash.
we put that handoff
Mhm.
stuff aside to fill us.
Yeah.
So that was sort of escrow.
A suitcase, just bring
Yeah.
a suitcase.
Of course, we're waiting on EFC for 800.
Partition Street.
East Street. Figure out how.
So who signs for Cahoes?
Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. It'd probably be DeRocher. He's the comptroller.
So it's your controller as well.
So we need the funds that you've been wired already. We need to get that. You've already had some Beaver Creek money wired to.
Yes.
April 7th. Waterville Elite too, but no one from Waterville Elite is here, correct? Okay,
No, we could press them.
okay, because they
That's,
got a disbursement on April 28th, and I would need to know who their person is. That
Yeah,
would
I
be
think.
something-
we
Joe
paid our
Lasavita
first
would
disbursement,
know.
though, cash we had from the sewer fund.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I think we paid a payment already into the Beaver Creek Corporation or whatever.
Yes.
We paid it out of money that we had in the sewer fund, and then we asked for reimbursement.
Yeah,
I'll double check that. And anything that's open, that, anything that's been open, I'll email Jessica, you.
okay,
and
Yeah.
I'll wire that, we can wire those funds.
Yeah, if we've had sent in and they've got a disbursement, we should make sure that there's an invoice to the community for that,
Mhm.
that covers that, so that you can then get.
so hopefully moving forward, this will be a much easier process for EFC. But now we might have a hiccup because,
It'll be
is
figured
there
out.
someone coming in as a controller or no?
No.
No, okay. All
I
right,
asked Paul if it could be me signing it for CSO.
well, that would make sense,
Might be a lot quicker turnaround.
yeah.
But are you gonna need some sort of board resolution or something for that, I guess? Or the mayor can make an assignment.
With the way our city council's going right now.
Oh, yeah.
Live
I
streaming,
think
folks,
we're
we're live
pretty
streaming.
So, okay, well, in any event, that's the situation. We just we need to keep the cash moving on the Beaver Creek project. We're trying to clean up some of the earlier projects. That's not critical necessarily from a cash flow basis, but it is.
Closing the OO.
But the
Yeah,
I think Troy's maturity on their initial bonds are even closer than ours, and
In March.
EFC is really anxious that we get all that straightened out.
March of 2023.
Mhm.
You have Elite Street in there? On
No.
yours?
No,
Not on,
that's a 0-1, I think.
we've got Fleet Street on our O1.
You do, yeah, but you're all right, because completion date on that, the last completion date is like June of
There's only
2023. so
600,000
close
down
down.
our OO, so there's not much left in it.
yeah, you only have, I have your
Most
cost
of it's-
summary.
Yeah, most of it's grant anyway.
And to be honest with you, for what's not, what we've been dispersed on is showing condition for you guys.
Yeah.
So there's a draw already ready to go essentially for Troy and vice
They just
versa.
have to go
Things,
to our file and clear it.
yeah, and essentially projects that were cleared for you that you received money are conditioned for us. So once we meet with Paul, which he said he will come to us,
Mhm.
he's bringing someone and he's waiting for their availability, then he'll email us.
Mhm.
But we, in real time, are gonna update both cost summaries, and once we have that done, we're gonna do a final draw on our OO and your OO to get them done. And off of
Because that was
everyone's
the
plates.
that was the issue with us trying to open up our O1. Was because we had so much in the OO, it would
Yeah.
close the O1.
But your Fleet Street financing is on something you haven't closed yet.
Correct.
And around we go.
So that, I guess moving on from the financial report, there's no action required by the board in regard to the financial report, but moving on to the report from the finance committee.
The finance committee met immediately prior to this meeting, just to memorialize the actions. The first order was they made a recommendation to the board to adopt the proposed 2023 Albany CSO Pool Communities Corporation budget. And the board would need to take action to formally adopt the budget.
I think everyone here was present for that discussion.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion to accept the proposed 2023 budget? Okay, Mark, thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Andrew, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion carries.
Great. The second item that was before the finance committee immediately prior was a recommendation to the board to adopt a modified fiscal year 2022 budget, which included new line items to summarize the remaining costs before the board, before the corporation related to SSS09 mirror line, and then SDCF 0102, which are for a floatables control facility.
Okay, and these were kind of part of the cleanup of what we're doing under our previous years, costs occurred in previous budget years. To have a motion to modify the 2022 budget.
Motion.
Tom, second?
I'll second.
Gary, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We move to vendor invoices.
Great. I did something, I don't say unusual, but I split them into two categories, just in case there was a confusion about amending the budget or not. I wanted to make sure that we were clear about our vendor invoices. So there's two sets. The first set are for current projects that were in the pre-modified 2022 budget. These are expenses relating to a series of projects from CAHOS, the corporation, and the city of Albany. That should actually say for Valete Street, that should be CAHOS. I apologize for the typo. These invoices are for Valete Street, Columbia Street, and the Beaver Creek Clean River Facility. There is no grant associated with these. For Beaver Creek, half the grant has already been obligated to that particular project, and the remaining amount will be applied to the end. For the projects in CAHOS, the grant money that have been received for these two projects applied to the construction costs and not to the vendor costs. So the summary of the invoices is $864,327.29. Pending approval, we'll distribute those invoices to the communities. For those big C invoices, I know those are important, so we'll make sure that those get into folks' hands so they can draw down on them and so that they're able to be wired to the corporation so we can distribute funds for those. Do you have any questions about the invoices? They were in Dropbox. We have Albany and CAHOS here if there are questions about them to answer questions about them.
No questions. And can we have a motion to pay the vendor invoices?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, Maggie and Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks. And so the second set of invoices is presented were I'll call them cleanup invoices for lack of a better term. These are for Mirrorline and for the floatables control facility, as Bill had mentioned. We were waiting for EFC to clear some of these for dispersal. And so they came to the corporation after their budget year had closed. We met immediately prior to amend the budget to incorporate those into the FY22 budget. There is some grant money that is associated with Newcastle's project for SSS09. So the remaining amount of that ISC grant was exhausted and applied to that invoice, hence the difference between the invoice total and the amount to be paid. Something is not tabulated, something didn't tabulate correctly in that field. I'm noticing now, I apologize. That should be that should be less by $125,000. Which I apologize, I didn't catch earlier. But if we take action to approve the invoices, we will distribute them netting out that grant as it does apply to Newcastle's pay app number 4. Just as a note, I included pay app 5 for Newcastle did put the project a little slightly over the LTCP budget.
So we have some sort of correction to that?
Yes, this amount would be reduced by the $125,765 because of the, it would be adjusted for the remaining balance of that particular invoice as the grant applies. I'm going to do your quick math.
I can do that if you give me a.
249.
Just leave it up on the screen. I can-
Yeah, thank you. I didn't catch that earlier. I apologize.
Just takes a minute to get my calculator.
'Cause the amount of difference would come off the 943, 703.49.
$819. 853.59.
Okay, so these are the catch-up things based on our revised budget. Do I have a motion to accept these for payment? Chris, do you have a second? Mark, all in favor?
Aye.
We need one coffee.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. That is the end of vendor invoices and old vendor invoices. So we have some time. We did discuss this previously, but the next item on the agenda is ESC disbursements and reconciliations. We more leave this as a placeholder to discuss any issues or strategies for moving things through ESC, which we did discuss at length, but if there's any more discussion on that, we've got a placeholder for it.
Well, so Martin has worked on spreadsheets that have both Troy and Cahose's, or Troy and Albany's financings, and Tom Dufresne has worked on spreadsheets that keep track of what's in the cost summaries for the FC for those financings. And Jess has been kind of auditing all of that to work with Paul to get those things taken care of.
Ready, Twirly birds. Ready?
All with the, all trying to close out the original tranches of these finances for the most part, and to keep and to have like a single point of contact in regard to these, invoices. Maggie, you might need help.
I muted Maggie, so just say no, Maggie, I muted you.
So I don't know if Jess and Tom, if you have any other comments to make in here to this process, but we also now have we have access to the QuickBooks that Tom's been keeping, so we can try to reconcile all these things going forward, and so make sure we've got everything for the closeouts.
Yeah, I just want to humble brag here. What I've been doing is I've taken the cost summaries just so folks know what we're doing, and
Lost it.
I lost it. Martin can't use a computer. And basically tied them all together to be able to do in real time, to be able to estimate how much is left for a cost and what may be preventing a drawdown. So if I'm looking at Albany's 00, for example, here's asset management plan, Village of Green Island. I can pull the contract amount, what should be eligible for Albany. This project cost to date pulls actually from our individual project sheets that I use to manage and track project costs. And then eventually we come down to cost remaining, and if there's a reason why it can't be drawn down on, in this case, EFC still hasn't cleared that particular contract or reviewed that element, it gets zeroed out as like, there's money left, but there's no cost remaining for disbursement. On some of these, you'll notice, for example, on GI 05, which is, I believe it's the
Water release.
yeah, thank you. Route 32 is what I was trying to think of. Yes, the costs have been cleared. There's eligible money remaining from that particular contract, and so we believe that there's $154,295.82 that Albany can draw down on that particular project, because nothing has been dispersed yet.
Yeah, and so with Paul Johnson trying to decide, hey, does there need to be some last change to the contract amount for something, or are we gonna still draw down on something that's still showing some eligible amount remaining? To clean up all that stuff, to make sure, because some of these grants were like a percentage, but up to a certain amount, so if the invoicing was reflecting a percentage, we need to actually true up, because we need to take into account what actually ended up as a grant amount.
Right.
If it wasn't exactly that percentage because of change of project costs, Martin might not have gotten every change order that needed to be reflected, and Jess
And neither did EFC.
and Jess and maybe Troy's accounting systems might need to be checked to true up what's been done, or just make sure that we're not showing something against the wrong project code number. Some of the things might not have had code numbers within the cost summaries because EFC didn't do that.
Yeah.
Through all the process.
Would it be beneficial, because I know we're coming up on closing the ELO, to have a separate meeting to just discuss that once every couple of weeks, every month or so, just to sit down with invoices, close them out, what's eligible, what isn't.
Mhm.
Then we can go to EFC with specific questions of this project, we have this eligible, you know.
Yeah, my
So-
plan.
And there's some things that have been deemed ineligible, and now we have to just kind of take off the cost summaries and say, hey, okay,
It's just not,
this is going because we're not going to be able to make it be eligible. And then we'll have to figure out between us as the communities as what we're going to do for any of the things that are deemed ineligible for EFC financing.
So essentially, the meeting with Paul Johnson is to get contract amounts correct, the community's eligible amounts correct, because EFC doesn't have all the grants documented. So it's showing, Troy has this eligible amount, but really they don't.
Mhm.
So the meeting with Paul is just to get all of the numbers as accurate as possible, from change orders to grant money, each community's eligible share. Then we need to have a meeting with Karen and Brenda from MWBE, because they have things conditioned on our cost summary, but not yours, and vice versa. And whatever documents they may need, okay, give us a list, let's get them together. So the meeting that we were talking about with Paul is just to get the numbers correct. And then we're gonna work on getting everything dispersed and those holds removed. So the meeting you requested with Karen,
Mhm.
that would be a good meeting for Chris, I think,
Yeah.
to come to. And we'll give you a heads up on anything that they may need,
Mhm.
so you can get it sent over to them. And just alone from what they're saying is conditioned on your cost summary, but that we've been dispersed on, we're exhausting your money in one shot. It's gonna be gone. So you'll get all
I
that.
planned on that from the beginning. I'm like, I know it's coming. I know it's already approved. It's just a matter of,
And that's EFC's own
Files have
disconnect
to
and miscommunication on their end, because we've been paid for it, but they're saying you can't get a penny. That makes no sense.
Yeah,
We got some work to do.
there are several of these.
Yes,
that
there's
are
several.
in there, so. Anyway.
So that is our discussion on EFC disbursements, reconciliations, project updates.
Did you want to share photos?
Real quick before, can we go back to the EFC disbursements?
Yeah,
So obviously, we know you have a controller issue coming up.
Yep.
Could you get Bill the contact information for Cahos's individual that signs supplemental certs, or should I just go through you? And you can reach
Yeah,
out
why
to
don't you
them?
go through me?
Okay, I'll do that, and then you guys can call whatever. Okay, that was it, thank you.
Yeah, so what
All right.
can I do?
Okay. You have a keyboard and mouse in front of you. I'm gonna switch you're not going anywhere on Zoom, so don't feel like we're losing anybody. I'm gonna switch this to a different browser or to a different input. You should be able to, if you move the mouse, it'll ask you to log in, click, and then it'll password is CDRPC, all capitals. Don't tell anyone. We're live streaming this,
Is that it?
1967.
It's right here on the wall.
Don't
tell anyone.
Okay, bad guys don't get that.
Even highlighted.
Yeah, right. Just take a picture.
Yeah, so if you go to Chrome, you should be able to log right in.
Then I'll have to remember my.
Mhm.
what am I doing here?
We can catch it. Got it. Okay, that works for me. Are we looking at Beaver Creek?
Yeah. See if I know my password.
I would fail.
Okay. I don't even know I do two-step verification.
Oh, look at your picture. Very rarely, but he does. Our commissioner, on the other hand, not so much. You're lucky if you get a smile out of that.
Your live stream.
I'll tell him.
So Maggie and Tim, I'm gonna have to just turn my computer if you want to try to strain your eyes and look at the screen. I was trying to share the screen because we're in a different input. It's not good, but Bill's gonna share some pictures from Beaver Creek. So, doesn't matter. You're looking to the owl anyway. I don't know. I
Now I
can't see it.
have to remember this password.
We'll get there.
I knew this is gonna be.
I'm trying to get in the pro.
That's his password.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it,
Good time to get a donut before Gary eats them.
That's right.
I think it's really chocolate, like, it's a chocolate oat milk. Nobody else wants the chocolate.
okay. Yay, I did it. Not today. Got a very calm dog here.
Very good dog.
So this is what it's looking like at the Beaver Creek Satellite Treatment Facility. We've you see these guys here, they're standing on the roof of the chlorine contact chamber now. So we poured the roof over the chlorine contact. So that's coming right along. all of the screens have been installed now at South Plant, Albany County South Plant. And right now, they're working on getting in diversion for the washer compactor. They're gonna get the washer compactor, and so in the room adjacent to the screens is a little garage bay, and the conveyor comes into the washer compactor chutes. There's the diversion piece there for that. So they're setting stuff in that garage bay. Got all the screens in place. They were having some problems at the South Plant with one of their pumps, so I guess blowing some seals and getting a bunch of sewage into their dry well. So they were having some difficulty. We still have to remove one bulkhead that was put in at screen number 3. It was put in, checked it out, put it in service, but there's still a bulkhead in front of it for that. So that project is coming along. There was the strangest thing in regard to this conveyor was it's right over top of a big expansion joint between 2 sections of this building. It just happened that they put the conveyor is
Yeah.
right over the expansion joint, and this expansion joint is like 4 inches wide.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Actually, I don't think it was supposed to be that wide originally. I think
But
it's
it's
4 inches,
more.
4 inches
Yeah.
wide at the top and 2 inches wide at the bottom.
Right.
And so they couldn't really set the conveyor until they got this specially made filler to go in this expansion joint.
Oh, wow.
And so they're waiting for that, and then they can set the conveyor and they'll get their washer compactor.
Wow.
Yeah, really.
So that's phase 2. The
Warm it up with 2x4s, means I have to put a whole 2x4 to get 4 inches in each joint.
we're calling this that new actuated gate 2A. That was, we were required to do that new
Right.
actuated gate as part of the approval of the screen project. So we're still waiting for the equipment for Keller to do that. When they do that, they're gonna have to bypass the whole flow from an upstream manhole to primary tanks.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be
Are there any issues with trying to get any orders in for equipment or materials? Or is it all ordered ahead of time before kind of everything kind of fell off?
it's been a problem with some delivery time, especially if you're doing some things in change order and it involves ordering something. It's like, okay, well, we have some alternative. This came up on the satellite treatment facility, like CDM had spec some titanium supports for some piping in the sodium hypochlorite room.
CDM costs in there.
Yeah, you work for the Department of Defense or something.
And we find some fiberglass supports or
Right.
some other type, some coated supports so that you weren't. But, other than that, just some things that involve PLCs and computer components and things that are supply issues right now, getting Allen Bradley PLCs and getting all that together. So 2A is waiting for equipment. Keller's got that actuated gate project. 2 is Jet Industries, and they're finishing up. And 3 was the diversion from Delaware Avenue to the facility. That's all done. Keller has that contract as well as 5, but they really had a subcontractor, Drill Tech, that did both the shaft for that and the tunnel. Drill Tech is all gone at this point. 4 was Reifenberg's project. That was the tunnel from the satellite facility to 3rd Avenue, and that's been all done. It's just doing some restoration. And 5 is really what's ongoing. And pretty soon it'll be ramping up with HVAC and electrical and plumbing guys as well as the Keller. So far, it's been just building the building. once we get certain parts of it enclosed, then more can be done with running conduit and running ductwork and all that stuff. And Rebecca Calvin is working with trying to get our internet connection stuff and our national grid gas and electric stuff in place. And
God bless you.
so
I'd
that's
rather work with the railroad than work with National Grid.
so that's where we are with Beaver Creek project. You know, it's so we've got a bunch of our phases done, and phase one I didn't have it, but we didn't do it in Procore, but that was the connection we made at Pearl Street, to Third Avenue to the county interceptor sewer. So that's been working. That's got a screen. So we divert our screenings and some flow down Third Avenue, and it goes directly into the interceptor sewer. And that has a passive screen in case the interceptor sewer gets surcharged and the flow can't really get into the interceptor sewer. It has a passive screen, and it goes over to our Gansvert overflow. So that part's been done for a while. That's where $50 million is going.
You should be able to get so much more.
Right in the ground.
Like concrete box.
Prevent it from going out into the river, I guess, you know.
So yeah, anybody who wants to,
The mayor took a tour, so. you guys want a tour,
Hottest ticket in town.
the board of CDRPC is gone, and
You should see where all your money's going. You should take a tour,
Right down before.
essentially, yeah,
Literally.
pretty much.
The best part was they put us on the end of the crane and then swung us around.
That's remember 16 turns and it comes on screen.
yeah.
At 15 and a half, you gotta reverse it. Yeah.
If you don't mind going in one of those cages that gets moved around by a crane. Personally, I'd not
You
do
tip
it.
the operator good before you get it.
Yeah,
And how are the hoses projects doing?
Carver's doing well. We did hit rock, which was anticipated. I'm not sure that they were hoping it was gonna come out a little easier. It didn't. But Carver's doing well. We're still in the park. So they're a little behind schedule. But we're now just getting out of the rock. So we're anticipating that he's gonna pick up speed. But all in all, so far, everything's been good. The lead street, Newcastle's got that. They were supposed to they cut the trees, or we had to do that before the end of March. All right, so we did that. And they were supposed to start early June. I have a feeling Newcastle also has the New York State Parks contract to do the bike trail on either side of the sewer separation project. And I have a feeling that's what they're concentrating on, because they're not at the sewer separation job. We had a meeting with them last week, and they said, well, we've got some scheduling problems, so we're looking at the end of June, early July. Well, there's time in the contract, but you guys have to get going. So.
but they're mobilized in the area at least, right? I mean, you're not.
Well, I was behind one of their machines a week and a half ago. And I'm saying, well, they're definitely in the house.
Yeah,
You know. So,
Not on
but
your
then,
job.
right, not on my job.
Yeah.
So, Mike was there too at the meeting, and we requested that they provide us an updated schedule this week, some real dates, and they're supposed to be out there Well, I get rained out yesterday or today. So I'll probably be tomorrow on some test pits for some. We've got 2 rural water lines that goes up to our rural water res that bisects the bike path. And they got to do some test pits there. So.
Okay. So new
Have
guys,
you had any issues with Newcastle on your project?
we've had Newcastle do several projects. I guess they've done pretty well for us. We had the interconnection we did with the town of Colony, Newcastle did, and
They did Maryland.
with Maryline.
The award-winning project.
Building plaques on our walls, that's for sure.
Course pavement at Maryline. And no, so I guess they've been doing a bunch of paving in the city of Albany too.
Yeah, they have the city's contract for paving and restoration, so.
They're doing all of our ADA ramps at all the intersections and everything's been, it's been entered twice in as much in change orders as during actual work.
Ah,
And the.
That sounds
engineers are-
like Keller.
And the engineers are fighting and saying, no, it's in there. And
Claims.
they're saying, no, it's not there. Curbing is in here. No, it's not there. It says right here, so many linear foot of curbing right in the bid, and you bid it per foot. You can't change that. Well, the costs have gone up.
Doesn't matter. You're in a
This bid's
contract.
only 3 months old. That's on
Yeah.
you to anticipate the cost increase.
Absolutely.
So it's a big constant fight.
Who's doing Oak Street for you?
Louisiana.
Louisiana, that's right. And how's that going?
They are on site. Louisiana isn't on site. They had KPI come in, do some televising, and they cleaned the sewers because they were 50% full of sediment. There's not much flow in them. Everything KPI pulled off site today. Other than a couple minor issues, the sewer that's there is in fine shape.
Yay.
So that's
So
good
now,
news.
yes, so we did have a bid item in there for relining areas if needed. Doesn't look like we're going to have to at this point.
Okay.
So that's one thing Karen at EFC or DEC was worried about. How do you know that that sewer is gonna last another 50 years and that we're getting the money we're getting for it? Oh yeah, we gotta change the budget to put in cleaning and televising and align it up for relining if needed.
How big a sewer was that?
Triple layer brick arch. I think we're good. They don't just fall
What,
apart.
what size is that?
48-inch brick sewer.
Yeah, lining that's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah. But that's in great shape, so now it's just a matter of getting materials. Which
Yeah,
are
we've
ordered.
been,
They actually order the materials before they have a contract. Like, it's gonna be hard to get.
Smart.
We're just gonna order them and you're only talking 1,700 feet. If we don't use it, we'll put it in our stockpile.
Yeah, we've been doing some large sewers with that central pipe, that cast.
How do you like that?
That spray and line pipe.
Yeah. It's just for that big stuff, there's no way you're gonna do wet weather bypassing, and this facilitates being able to do work in a large sewers.
We had Errol did that on our penstock on our dam.
Yeah,
They came in and they had to crawl up into the 60-inch penstock and then they set it all up, spun it coming out. It was fantastic.
yeah, and last year we did all along Washington Park Lake, but it wasn't central pipe, it was national water main, but it was similar process. And,
So the project's moving along. I don't anticipate any issues at this point. The only issue I foresee is the manhole covers.
Exploding?
Freak now,
No, can't
precast.
get 'em.
Kraus Heinz still making those things?
We can from
Fort Miller. Is that where you're
EJ,
EJ, East Jordan, we get them from.
I think Albany Windwater has them too.
They have the city steal on them because we had a lot of people stealing them and trying to scrap them. Now they bring something over to the Kelmans that says City of Troy on it.
They won't take it now.
They won't take it. And then they
Oh,
call
wow.
us and then the police show up and it's a big deal.
Wow.
I
Can
mean,
you
regular
go-
It's
manhole
actually cheaper than
Can
getting.
you go to that
something-
same place and get other communities' manhole covers or?
Yeah,
I have seen water for manhole covers in Brunswick. Yes. But, yeah, the cast, the ring and the cover are $125. Cheap, and
Yeah,
that's with the city seal in it. And it looks so much better when you go down the street to see that. It's something. Sewer.
Okay, and projects that have plans and specs submission is Van Buren.
Van Buren's being surveyed, it was surveyed, they're finalizing some elevations on some connection points. And then once that's done, we're gonna, CDM's will give us 3 options with 3 different price costs. And we'll decide which one is the best long term. Cheaper isn't always better, we try to go cheaper, but sometimes it's just not always
I
better.
agree, because then you go back and have to do the work again and spend more money.
And I always say, when only spending $50 million, I'm not worried about first day.
Trust me, we get it.
you guys set the benchmark.
Yeah, just for Van Buren, just be cognizant that their plan and spec deadline is the 1st of October.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we hit that.
I think that's the only one.
Construction is 2024.
Yeah, that's the construction's out.
Yeah.
2024. Notice to proceed 4/1/23. The plan is spec 10/1/22.
Yeah.
I'm looking through to see if there's any other
Projects
projects that have
we're also putting together some applications for some
cross street.
I think that's the only one.
We're getting there, guys. We're getting there.
Yeah.
It's not a
I
lot.
keep
There's
telling myself
surprisingly-
that.
I
and
know
then
it seems
something
like a
new
lot
happens.
of rate, a lot of craziness, but like, there's a lot of green on here.
There was 2 portions to Cross Street that were left. So there's 1 portion of Cross Street that was left for us. One was relining Campbell Ave, which has already been done. We did that under a separate contract. And then the other one was underneath the railroad. Luckily, it's relining. The pipe's in good shape. So it's just cleaning it, lining it, walking away.
So Cross Street has another contract.
It's very, probably under 60 grand.
Wasn't Cross Street one of them that EFC said was ineligible?
There was.
That was the outfall
There was,
Okay.
yeah, there's been a couple different portions of that. One was the
Gotcha.
outfall.
and only Pollard.
Yes.
Doesn't go for Pollard.
Wonderful company.
But City of Troy,
Haven't
that
had
we
the
have,
pleasure.
we have force account equipment and materials that City of Troy contributed that EFC hasn't signed off on yet.
Yeah,
Which I'm
we
like, why?
saw that yesterday,
Um,
yeah.
So yeah, Pollard didn't get in, but the rest of the line items for that project should be in.
The engineering and all of
Mhm.
that, yeah.
So I'm curious about those holds. But yeah, look, I want, let's toot horns. These are all the projects that are done. And we have some projects under construction. There really only are 4 projects that need plan and spec. There are 2 in design. I call them in design, even though, they may be in the preliminary stages, but we're getting there. There's a lot of green on the sheet for projects that are done.
Okay.
Projects that are in
So
construction.
thinking about this earlier. Now that this long-term control plan is kind of coming to a close.
We're not starting another one. That's what you're thinking.
We will achieve, we will
100% wanna
achieve,
agree with you, but.
we
gotta
will
know that for
achieve
certain before we-
compliance. We will achieve compliance. Yeah.
Yeah,
The 2 things that concern me are the tribs, which are a separate issue. And what's happening at the Beaver Creek outfall in the later stages of the summer. We saw those spikes of dry weather bacterial counts, maybe related to warm water from the discharge from the plaza, but at some point in time. after
Yeah,
big
we've been
seas turn on,
monitoring,
it's gotta get monitored.
This thing it gets referred to as separation manhole 3. So on the eastern end of Empire State Plaza, we have a location where the combined sewage from the Center Square neighborhood and the Empire State Plaza come into one manhole. And on one side of it, the cooling water from Empire State Plaza comes in.
which isn't so cool.
Right.
No,
And the thing is, when they have really high flows from the cooling water in Empire State Plaza, it splashes over into the sanitary side. And we've been, we put a smart cover into that chamber, but it's in a really bad place to have to go because it's in the South Mall arterial. In the middle of the South Mall arterial. So we have to arrange for Donnelly to come.
Mhm.
And we have to arrange for a confined space entry, and we have to try to do it when there's not 100-degree water, cooling water in there, because nobody can stand to be in there
Right.
Right.
when there's 90 or 100-degree cooling water. And they discharge up to 90 mgd of hot water into that.
90.
What's your source?
That's an-
So,
They bump it up in the Hudson.
so that it comes in and it's like this,
Is there a permit for that?
it has this.
I was just gonna say,
They've got
That sounds like it's a quick pipe and that's their own little project.
Yeah, that's a thermal discharge. If you got,
they've got a speedies permit.
They have a
for-
permit.
for
And they're putting in
that,
baffles.
And they've been working on some improvements in regard to that. But we put this a smart cover in, but there's so much going on in there that we're not sure that about how the data
right,
comes in, because we have this flow coming into the trough from a 72-inch pipe coming from through the plaza, and then we have this other chamber, and we have splashing from the cooling water. So we're trying to scope that out with DC and see, but it could be potentially be contributing to overseeing the cooling water outfall.
Yeah, and this is why I bring it up. We have these late season surges into September, October, which are very strange because they're occurring during this dry weather period. So once big seas turn down, we'll see what the impact of that facility is on that.
I guess the report cards in the river.
Yeah.
And
That's might be, see how that comes back.
but we,
Has to occur from there.
next year would be the first year of operation. Our permit says for the first year, we're gonna be doing this kind of proof of the log reductions with Intero. And then we'll make adjustments with our dechlor setup based on that. And so we really think 2024 will be the first year we have tuned the operation in. So that's when we're gonna do the next round of post-construction compliance monitoring plan. So that is, that's pretty much what updates. Is there any other business that we need to kick around? So, ask for a motion to adjourn then.
I'll make a motion.
Gary, Tom, second, all in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Opposed, motion carries.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us online, Maggie and Tim.
Thank you.
Bye.
In our
You know,